Hey, that's me.
Hey, what's up? We're jamming out over here. Hey, you guys. Welcome to Andromeda 7 Celestial Gateway. We are your community portal to all of your brothers and sisters that provide their gifts and talents and your services, or even their crafts and skills and knowledge. Just a major hub for everybody to come together and share all of that together here. And tonight we have Samantha Marshall, about chromatic sequencing of music, sound, vibration, and creation. So this is going to be like right up my alley. I think my oldest best friend in the whole world, my whole life, has been music. So I'm totally excited. All right, we also have Brenda's with us tonight, and Julie, and of course our lovely ladies, Teresa and Lori. Thank you so much. All right, you guys, let's see who's on the chat here. We have Donovan Gall, number vibrationalist. Ooh, that's interesting. Brian Peachy, hi. How's it going? Yep. It's so nice to meet you. And we have Grandpa. Hey, Grandpa Brian, what's up?
Hi, Grandpa Brian.
See David Castle's in the house. Oh my gosh, thank you, brother. Greetings and favors to you.
Greetings, brothers.
See Elderberry. Woo!
Barry Bro.
Hi, Barry.
Yeah, see who else is all in here. So
Mary Wins.
And Mary Wins showed up. What's up, girl?
Yeah, Lucky's here.
Lucky's here. Yep. He's in the house.
I don't want to miss anybody. Okay.
We'll start filtering in.
Hey, Lucky. Don't want to miss you, brother. Yeah, we'll start getting more people as we continue to march forward. Some people are just getting home, and they're like, the show.
Fighting that traffic.
Alrighty, ladies. So, Brenda. Yeah. Oh. Brenda, would you like to share some thoughts with us?
Well, I would. And staying with the theme tonight, I'm going to read a quote from Albert Einstein. It says, "We are slowed down sound and light waves, a walking bundle of frequencies turned into the cosmos. We are souls dressed up in sacred biochemical garments, and our bodies are the instruments through which our souls play their music." That's it.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Does fit.
That's actually brilliant.
Yeah.
Perfectly fit. Oh my, that's brilliant. Yeah, it does. That's awesome. That's awesome. Something about just the words just resonates. It just makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It's the truth.
Okay, yeah, it is. And a little bit of lag here and there on the computer.
Gotcha.
No, that's okay. Well, let me go ahead and introduce Samantha, because
do we have some slides we'd like to share?
Well, I'm going to introduce Samantha first to everybody, so that folks know what's going on. Samantha is actually a viewer of our program. She's from Australia. Her name is Samantha Marshall, and she wrote us and contacted us because she wanted to bring this topic to our attention when she was watching our show about the spirals and the two different spirals of creation. Because Samantha, like a lot of us, have been looking into sound and how sound and frequency working together. And she is an accomplished violinist, right? A multi-instrumentalist, in fact, more than one instrument. Singer, songwriter, and you've had vivid experiences with interacting with music throughout your whole life, basically. You've sound-pitched animal calls.
Yes.
Wow.
And children's voices and cries. And you came to a realization or an understanding that the tones of our voices and the sounds of our words create or experience or manifest form.
Yes.
They actually creates matter,
Yes.
is what you're saying. So this goes back to our very origins and how we may have developed and created our environment.
Yes.
So we're really looking forward to how you break that down. We liked your charts
Absolutely.
and how you were explaining it. So it's going to be wonderful to hear about that tonight. So thank you for coming and offering to be with us and joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank
You know?
you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. But yes, we do.
So
We
cool.
have two. We do have two PowerPoint small slides. The one is just an overview of different sound technology being used right now by healers to help our bodies, and the other is Samantha's own charts and graphs that she has created through her research and studies into chromatic sequences. All right. So we'll just bring the first set of slides up and do a real quick overview.
You
Okay.
got it. Mhm.
The panelists can jump in at any time. It's an organic flow. But so basically, before we move on to the first slide, there are some major areas of sound technology and research going on right now. One is has been going on for a while. Is binaural beats. Binaural beats. The other is somatic therapy. And then we also have light therapy now. People are using vision therapy to stimulate the optical nerve, to help stimulate the brain, to help with memory management and mindfulness. And they're using these things in combination in some cases. The healers will work with both the binaural beats and the somatic therapy. So next slide will show you a graph. For those of you who don't know anything about binaural beats, you're listening to it a lot when you're listening to meditation videos or meditation music. But what the healers are doing is they're saying that binaural beat therapy is an emerging form of sound wave therapy, making use of the fact that the right and left ear each receive a slightly different frequency tone, but the brain perceives them as one tone.
Placenta. Yeah.
As center, right. So advocates of this type of therapy are currently recommending it for the treatment of anxiety and stress and all kinds of related disorders thereof, including self-help treatment programs that you can do at home. And that's what most of us do when we tune into David Berry 75's channel and we listen to his meditation videos and music, and we listen to music to go to sleep with. But basically, it's taking whatever. If you take a look at this chart on the right-hand side, I don't know if they can see it, but on the right-hand side of the chart, they're breaking down the different types of waves, like beta, theta, alpha, and each one of those waves affects the brain and emotions in a different way. So in the first block, they're talking about, I can't really see it from here. Hang on a second. In the first block, let me blow this up a little bit.
Gamma rays.
Can you see it, Lori?
Yes, the
Yeah,
gamma ray.
Yeah, in the far right-hand corner. Can you read them off?
Insight, peak, focus, expanded consciousness, and that's that gamma 31 to 100 hertz.
Right.
And then you've got the beta, which is 16 to 30 hertz, and that's alertness, concentration, cognition. And then you have the alpha, which is an 8 to 15 hertz.
Yeah.
That's difficult to see.
Yeah, it is a little bit difficult. But the point is that you have different, these are all in the lower hertz, you know, and they're listening through repetition for a half an hour at a time to these tones, and then they'll go back later in the day and listen again. And they did that with me for auditory therapy after my brain trauma, because I was having difficulty hearing out of at least one ear. So I only had one ear, had a balance problem, and they were trying to restore balance. And they were using binaural beat therapy to help me regulate, because it helps get the brain back into being regulated. Next slide. So in addition to binaural beats, they're also working with something called cymatic therapy. For those of you who haven't heard that, it's visualization of sound, basically. Cymatics analyzes sounds by applying all of your principles of sound wave mechanics. And since it is a type of wave, it can be displayed through visual media using different colors. They will take instrumentation and direct sound waves, energy waves, and frequencies into certain parts of your body to restore resonance and harmony. Basically, what they're doing, folks, is if you have a defective organ, like a kidney or a heart or a liver, and you need to heal from that, they want to stimulate your body's own system of immunity and get it to vibrate at a more healthy level. So what they've done is they've mapped out, apparently, the frequencies that are needed that each body organ puts off. Every organ's different. It's like a separate mechanism that has its own frequency. So they've mapped out what a healthy frequency should be. Even though we're all different and we all have different organs, they're trying to say that within a certain range of frequency, a heart gives off a certain energy, and your kidney gives off a certain energy frequency. So they take these discs and put them on your skin, just like they do when they take an X-ray and do sonar, and they apply sound into that affected area to stimulate your own immune system, to help retrain that organ into being healed, to being at the frequency it was supposed to be in the first place. That's my understanding of how cymatics works. And it's not something you do at home. It's something that you do with a healer or a therapist who's working with that technology to help you pinpoint and locate the organs and send it the right amount. I guess they've worked out a mathematical formula or a routine where they put you under, not under, but they put it on you.
The Royal Ralph system.
Yeah, so you're familiar with it, Crystal? Yeah. So anyway, but the device...
Royal Ralph machine.
Okay. That's what they call it?
It goes back along... Yeah, his research is what really kind of started this, along with the Schumann scientific research. Right. They've been doing this research a while back, and now they just kind of... Either they've tried to suppress it, which is kind of hard because it's kind of leaked out now. And a lot of the metaphysical festivals that we used to go to in the 90s, they had actual brain reentrainment whole systems that you could use. They would use light, the sound, and you close your eyes, and then you would put the music on, and then whatever lights you were seeing was actually in your mind, because it was only like a red and white light. So any kind of lights that you were seeing, it was from your own brain. So it was like a brain entrainment kind of thing. But that research goes all the way back to Royal Ralph. He was actually splitting up AIDS, splitting up cancer, splitting up all kinds of stuff. I know Trina knows a lot about that.
They're using this cymatic therapy to treat cancer patients. They're actually sending sound waves into the cancerous cells to get them to vibrate at a frequency that they're supposed to be vibrating at to cure the cancer. But from what I understand, they're saying that this has a high success rate, but yet there's not a whole lot of documentation to actually prove it scientifically. So they're still referring to this as a fringe science. So next slide. I was in an accident, as you all know, and I had multiple head traumas, and I had a coup contre coup brain injury. I had trouble. I lost my right eye ridge collapsed over my eye, so I lost my vision in my right eye for a while. Not entirely, but quite a bit. And I had other things going on with balance. So they were using this mechanism that you see down below in the photograph. The headsets were for the binaural beats to help me, because I was not remembering anything, and I was having really short sentences, and so they were using that, and they put the goggles on me to send light into my eyes for the vision therapy portion of it, for the brain function. And that Crystal was just explaining, they also used the sound therapy. And they were calling it something else, and it was very legitimate, but they will not acknowledge that therapists who aren't related to the hospitals, but home healers, health therapists like Crystal and others, can use the same technology or help you do it yourself at home. You don't have to do it through the hospital or through a rehab center. I could have been at home doing this. It's just that they had the therapists working with me because mine was so complicated. But you can get this technology and use it at home without damaging yourself, you know. So anyway, that is all about the healing, and I didn't want to spend too much time and take too much time away from Samantha. I just wanted to tie it into the next level of this, I think, which is the idea is what she has discovered through her research, and that is how sound is actually used to help create reality. So I'll turn that over to Samantha. Is she still here?
She's trying to come in, but you know what happens.
There she is.
She's coming
There
in.
she is.
Okay.
Hey, Samantha.
There she
That
is.
was wonderful.
Yay.
You at least heard part of it, right?
All right.
Yes, I heard everything. Yes,
Okay, Samantha.
and I'm familiar with these processes
Awesome.
and with these applications. And with respect to that, my first experience with the binaural beats was via a device called a BioWell. And this is technology created by people in Czechoslovakia, Russia. And the concept is, I was searching for, how do I measure my vibrational frequency? How do I measure my consciousness? How do I measure my energy? Why do I have so much energy compared to the norm? You know, and this is a question I've been asked, and I've asked myself, and there must be a way to measure it. So in my search to discover more, I came across the company called BioWell, and it is an electromagnetic camera, and you put your finger in and it measures the vibrational frequency of your body. And like you're saying about each organ having its own vibrational note, sound, vibrational level, this device can identify where you're out of tune, for lack of a better way to put it.
Wow.
And while I'm not a doctor, I'm aware of the meridians, the Chinese medicine, and these kinds of things. And that was when I began to understand that the level of connectivity, that the pattern of a musical scale, the pattern of the rainbow, the pattern of our chakras, of our meridians, of our vibrations, that there's only one pattern. And we're all expressing it uniquely based on what factors? What makes me look different to you? And we know we have DNA, we have genetics, we have these sorts of things. But there had to be more. There had to be a specific ingredient and method.
Intelligence or personality or
what we're
consciousness.
So someone who sings really sad all the time, they tend to wear that on their body, and they develop that. They develop the physicality based upon the melody, the expression that they're holding, the chord that they're playing, the lifestyle they choose to live. Now, is it dietary? Is it something I ate that makes me behave this way? Is it what I'm speaking into being? And there's so many factors, and they're all, think of a forest. There's not just one tree in the forest, and every tree is unique, and the ground is essential, the rain is essential. It doesn't rain all the time unless we're in a rainforest. And this same pattern exists in our bodies as it does on our earth, because there's only one pattern. And as we looked at that first slide where it showed the gamma waves and the delta waves, This is just the part of the spectrum that we can literally process and hear. On that chart, recognizes that until we get into gamma, we can't hear delta. It's not a note on my piano. The piano starts at about 27 hertz.
Ah, okay.
So it'd be too
And
low
goes
to
up to, I don't know, 3,000 or something. It's on one of the charts.
Quite a range.
Yeah. And so where it began for me originally was as a child. I studied music. I practiced music every day. We had violins, pianos, guitars. Mum sang. We lived in the country. There was no electronics. So everything was very organic. And I would play music until I would be bouncing. And you practicing something really fast and it would wind me up. And then I would have to play something to wind me back down. And I was very aware that whatever I would playing would set a mood, set an energy in my house. If my mum was cranky, all I'd have to do is play Funky Town. Do, 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 do.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're happy guys.
That's brilliant.
And I could rewire.
Well, man, what does that say for all these head-banging teenagers that are just doing this metal stuff and screaming and talking about busting people up, raping people, and fighting people, and oh my God! And but then they vent out to their family too. They bust the window, they bust the door, they kick the wall, and they kick the dogs. I mean, it's crazy what the effect sound can have on you.
I went through that phase when I was a child.
Yeah.
So I would play, and then I was in
mosh pits when I was like 14, you know?
So what I discovered was when you read some of the notes, they have alphabet letters assigned to them. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And when you begin to learn music, they teach you a C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And we don't, if you're looking at that on a piano, that's all the white notes. We don't play the black notes. And I always had this little glitch in my level of understanding that they were missing steps. They weren't teaching me how to take every step on the piano. I was only allowed, and if we relate it to mathematics, let's just learn to count in twos. 2, 4, 6, 8. We'll get to 3, 5, and 7 later. But after you've studied mathematics or music for a couple of years and you've gotten the hang of using 2, 4, 6, and 8, now trying to remember where the 1, 3, and 5 go in amongst all those other notes can actually be quite confusing and frustrating unless even at a classically trained level. And being that I studied the violin, it doesn't have set notes like on a guitar has frets, so each note is depicted. On a piano, each note is depicted. On a violin, it's a chromatic instrument, which means I can play all of the out of tune parts in between the specific notes.
Yeah.
But no one was talking about this. We don't want to play the out of tune notes. We don't want to play the semitones. We don't want to have 1, 3, and 5, at least until you've studied music for 3 or 4 years. And I sort of looked at it and went, you're going to go, when there's a process of building, you don't do step 1, 3, and 5. You do step 1, step 2, 1 foot in front of the other. Stop missing steps, or you're going to have to go back and fix that foundation. And I'm not about to fight the system, but the system doesn't help in our learning, and especially non-musicians, to explain to them, to give them a concept of how music is in their body and how every music note is in their body, and how that relates to what they're attracting, what they're putting out. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So I discovered with simplicity, we could play Dad. D, A, D. Dad. That's Dad's chord. Mum doesn't have an M or a U. Mum's not here. My name's Sam. I couldn't play my own name. Where would S be if A is here? B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N. I wasn't allowed to write on the piano notes, so I had to memorize them. But after a while, it occurred to me, what about A sharp, C sharp, D sharp, these black notes? Why aren't the names of the notes in order?
Yeah.
Why is it A, B, C, D? And then if we relate that to something a little bit more obvious to the general public, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. The sound of music. Do, a deer, a female deer. We're singing a diatonic scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, which is only part of the scale. So what would you call the note between do and re? Do, re. And I've got a note in the middle.
It's off key.
It's not that it's off key, it's that we've eliminated the need to express, do the alphabet with only every second letter.
Yeah.
That's how we're teaching music.
Good point. That's a good point.
So let's go back to the basics of how the music is expressed on a piano, on a guitar, on a violin, and say, you know what, it's not do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's just another song you can make out of 12 using only 7 and 8 being the return to the octave. So I went into chromatic mode and went da, 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 da. That's a scale. Whereas our general scale is known as
the difference.
Then we have arpeggios where we use. These are all just different groupings. And if we sing the pentatonic scale, we've got 5 notes in our scale. A chromatic scale has 12 notes. And when I started putting all of these things together and went, well, if music is chromatic, why is the rainbow only got 7 colors? It's got 12. It has to. There has to be a color. And if it fits within the 8, it's just the missing steps that nobody knows about, that they're not teaching grade 1. It's not until you're a grade 5 classically trained violinist that you can cognize C sharp and D sharp as semitones rather than the standard do, re, mi song. And, you know, I look at it as part of minimizing the consciousness, maintaining a simpler group of vibrational consciousness. On certain instruments, you only have certain notes. You can only play certain songs. Being that I'm a violinist, I know I can play all the wrong notes. A piano player doesn't have that option.
Right.
They're fixed to their tuning spectrum. And so when I started to listen to the birds outside, and I'd come into the piano and I'd be like, the one piano I had wasn't perfectly in tune. Another piano I had, which was a 432 hertz piano, we didn't know this when I was a child, but I was already picking up the very slight, the 8 degrees of separation between 432 and 440. All of our classical instruments are tuned to 440. Nature isn't. Nature doesn't sing in tune with the standard tuning. It sings in tune with 432 hertz. And like one of those earlier charts where they show you, I don't know if they showed you on that chart, but there's some companies, there's some places now that can show you the 2 different tunings, 440 hertz and 432 hertz. Every spine, every skin, every organ has a vibrational note, and depending on your own nature, what I found when I started teaching students was some kids' guitars would stay perfectly in tune to 440. Some of the other students, their instruments would go just a little bit flat. Every week they'd come back a little bit flat. And it was the children who lived in the country, who lived on a farm, the vibrational frequency in their environment would down-tune their guitar to the natural vibrational frequency. Wow. The kids who lived in the city with all the electronic devices and the radios playing at 440 hertz, they'd stay in tune to 440 hertz.
Kind of pre-programmed in a sense, huh?
Yes, and it's the concept of the tuning fork. If you're in a room with everybody's got a different note tuning fork, and I ring my tuning fork, everyone with the same tuning fork will vibrate. And this is the theory of why they want you to, the binaural beats and the somatics, is that when you're listening to certain vibrational frequencies, the part of you that represents that same vibrational frequency will also vibrate.
So
it's
it
how
just
you break the glass.
matches?
Yes.
It would naturally match. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
And if you've seen the somatic experiments where they put sound through a speaker with a metal plate on top and they throw the sand on the metal plate at specific frequencies, the sand will create geometric patterns.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So when we play instruments that are in 440 tuning, well, what happens when we make a sound is the vibrational particles inside our the micro particles that create us, the water particles in the air, the dust on the land, the sand on the plate, will vibrate to such a way that creates a form. It aligns. It creates a pattern. You get ripples. We're all just coming through in waves. And if you hold a note, you can hold. My brain is exploding. So depending on what you're tuning into, vibrates in your direction.
Yep. Ta-da.
What you put out vibrates. The air particles around you will vibrate to your own energy, to your own vibrational principle. And when I started doing meditation, I discovered
Does
that
this explain? I had an experience. I went to a Dragon Force concert in Orlando, and this band came on called Once Human. And as soon as they started the music, that energy went through the floor, up my spine, and corrected everything I had going wrong. And I wasn't in pain for like 3 days. It was amazing. Yes. That was real. Yes. That was a real experience. I was like, I need to do this more often, because I got a complete like realignment, like right then and there. It was fantastic.
And a majority of the time, we're just living in a world that's not in tune to nature. And that allows for disease to develop because it's out of tune. Imagine if I didn't tune my guitar or my violin before I went on stage. No one would come to my concert. They wouldn't want to hear it. I wouldn't want to hear it.
Right.
And we're not tuning our bodies every day. Huh. And even if we are, we don't know that's what we're doing. And so we're not even really giving ourselves the true power and the true consciousness understanding, the true mental capacity. I'm going to go and make a cake. I'm going to need the ingredients. I'm going to need the bowl. I'm going to need to preheat the oven and follow the instructions. We know what we're doing. We act deliberately in our lives in everything that we do, except for how we handle our own tone of voice, how we express ourselves. And I understand. I've watched enough of these videos with your group to hear you rephrase yourselves. I deliberately called my daughter this because it creates this energy. My daughter's name is Symphony, like the orchestra. Because I would like her to understand that she is a symphony of music, that as human beings, we are a symphony of music. And if we can identify that every organ in our body has its own vibrational frequency, then I'm a piano. I'm a musical instrument. I am the instrument of divine peace. Or I can be killing in the name of, if I want. Yeah. That's just a different part of the spectrum that lots of people aren't comfortable with. There's nothing wrong with it. And you've sort of got to, if you want to understand the bigger picture, you've got to be prepared to play every note. Not just 1, 3, and 5 they teach you in grade 1.
I actually like that song.
I do too.
I actually like that song.
Country
music.
So
how did this lead you to the spiral and the fact that we're creating matter through sound?
When it occurred to me that there's a couple of concepts that just I didn't feel like I had the full picture because the picture's never been expressed intricately, and they'll tell you you're playing in the wrong key and therefore the names of the notes are going to change. You're going to use C sharp instead of C natural. You're not going to ever play that note. what occurred to me was that when I was studying the chakras and things like that, even though I knew there was 12 notes in my chromatic scale, they were only giving us 7 colors in the rainbow and 7 chakras in our body. Yet Chinese medicine will tell us we have all of the vibrational frequencies present in our body. I mapped, if 432 hertz represents a significant color, a significant chakra, then if I want to activate my root chakra, I have to play that musical note.
Mm-hmm.
Question.
And so
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but as you played the DAD, what would those colors be with the DAD?
Okay. So you should have one of these.
Okay.
If I send you a chart of,
Mhm.
this is the piano chart. We sit this on the keyboard of the piano.
Okay.
And you can see it's got white notes and black notes, white notes and
Gotcha.
black notes.
Mhm.
So D is yellow,
Okay.
the solar plexus.
Mhm.
Generally in our field of understanding at 288 hertz. A is the tone in question, 440 or 432. This piano I'm using today is actually a 440 piano. I do apologize. But the concept of that too is it's going to ring a bell with the full, with the standard. Yeah, I can sit here and play in tune with nature all day, and I'm quite happy and fine. And we don't have to. But having people understand how to relate it to what's happening on the radio. The same pattern exists. It's just in a slightly different tuning. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, because in order to progress through the scale, in order to go from being 1-year-old to 2-year-old, you've got to have 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. You don't get to miss a step. You don't get to miss a vibrational frequency. So to answer your question, D is a yellow note for the solar plexus, and A is actually violet, and not the root chakra at all. It's the crown and the ground. The octave runs between the bottoms of our feet and the tops of our heads. There are other notes outside the spectrum of the piano. However, the instrument contains all the notes. And we even have multiple octaves within our bodies. And there's a lot of discussion over this. Some of the research I did showed me the exact opposite to what I was waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning having the visuals. When I started asking the questions, now why does this? I'd wake up and go, oh my gosh, what is this information? I could see the sparkling things.
So you're seeing the colors? You're seeing
Yeah.
the color. So what did
Yes.
you do? Take the colors and then put them in the like go to the piano and hit those colors to see what the pattern was?
To see how the colors would change, to see
Wow.
what I could see, I could affect. I've for a long time I've been able to see the sparkly vibrational frequency around me, but I didn't know that's what I was looking at. And you know how they say some people just look dark and heavy?
Yeah.
Well, that's because they're playing these notes. The bright light.
Yeah,
And when you
that's
listen
the
to a crow,
contrast.
for example, they sing one note. Ah, 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 ah. And they're all black. And they're you look at a rainbow lyrically and they go, and they've got all the colours on them.
Yes.
So and it's sort of like certain things, they can only do what they're programmed to do. And our bodies are the same. And if we're going, I don't like that note, I don't like that song, I don't like that colour, two concepts, we're either disregarding the fact it exists within us because we're in dissonance with it, and actually it's being presented to us because it's wanting to be tuned to its electromagnetic concept. So anyway, when I played the piano, when I played certain songs, I could see my sparkling ones change. And that sometimes they generally follow like a hexagon kind of direction, but they bang off of each other, and the somatics of the sand isn't quite the same as it can be in in the open air space. But if you think about like a light, how when the dust particles come past it, you can see how the dust moves. You can see how the light, or like the rainbow's a perfect example. The light is hitting the water particles, and different angles of the water particles reflect different colors. And so that's what our vibrational frequency is doing. And we're, like you.
Can you see that in other people? Can you see that frequency or that? Yeah,
sometimes.
You can. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Like an aura around them.
A lot of the time I turn it off. It can be quite you've got to be in the right space. And when I'm running around doing my busy day, you don't even you're on a different vibrational frequency. But when I tune in, when I go, okay, I see everything changes, everything looks completely different. I don't see the physical of, and that's when you walk into walls because they weren't there a minute ago. Things shift.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's like you've just tuned your guitar and now it works differently. Your body works differently. And, and your meditation doesn't need to be yoga and omming. It can be practicing the piano.
Sure.
It can be reading a book. It's a level of focus. And it's almost like the magic eye books that we would, and learning how to unfocus from the physicality that's around us in order to focus in on the things we can't see.
Right. Right.
That the lesser matter, the less dense matter, because it's all
Tuning
matter.
all
It all
that
matters.
Tuning it all out. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. To be able to see turning on the microscope, to hear just one. Well, I can do this. Well, if you've seen the video that I have on my Chromatic Sequences page, this is a 432 hertz D. That's a 440 D. It's a little bit flatter. It's a little bit brighter and sharper. When I play my acoustic piano, that's in 432 hertz, I have a little bird that comes and sits on my window and sings to me. When I play the 440 hertz, I don't even notice the birds.
It's not high enough frequency for the bird.
It's not a natural frequency.
Doesn't resonate with that.
No, it doesn't make the sand particles around their little beings go zing. Yeah. We're dancing. It's kind of just like a revving car.
Oh my gosh,
sound.
Samantha, I would love to take you to one of these, one of my little techno little festivals just one time, so you can go through all the music with me. Oh, that would be amazing.
Well,
a little overwhelming, but it's an interesting journey. It's an adventure.
Yes. What I discovered was when I started to attempt to break the rainbow down onto the keyboard was I obviously had 12 semitones in a scale to account for, and that had to incorporate the entire rainbow. I couldn't use any color twice. I had to have 12 different shades from within the one rainbow spectrum. And that I've stopped calling the music notes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I give them numbers, or I give them alphabet letters. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. Let's write the alphabet on there. Let me play my name. And that sort of developed from and shout out to Donovan here listening on the bus, my personal coach and numerologist, number vibrationalist. I sought him out specifically. Listen to what we aligned at a point where I was wanting to understand why I was seeing so many synchronistic number patterns. 777, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Certain number patterns would come up on my car. They'd be on the clock. It was never really 1111 for me. I'd get 1, 2, 3, 4. Or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off, kind of.
More like the scales that you're used to.
And what even started it was I went to pay for something on FPOS, and my PIN number was the amount. I was being charged $17.12, and that's my birth date, and that was my PIN number. And so when I looked at the FPOS machine and went 1712, that's my password.
Wow.
Why? I couldn't pay. I cancelled the sale and walked away and went, they know my password. This is strange, and it sort of opened a can of worms for me, going, okay, so what do these numbers mean? I'd had experience with numerology as a child. However, I knew that vibrational frequency existed because I've been tuning violins to 440 hertz for 30-something years. And now our tuners have come out so that we could tune to 432. And so I have 2 violins and 2 pianos and 2 guitars, one tuned to each. Because when you go and play with the orchestra, you've got to tune to 440. But when you want to play with nature, you've got to tune to 432, or else you're out of tune with your ambient sound. It doesn't have the same ring to it. There's no harmony.
Yeah.
There can't be, because the instruments aren't in tune. So I wanted to understand why I was seeing certain number patterns. I wanted to understand my own numbers, what my specific number patterns in my life meant, and why they were being provided back to me. It was like the universe was saying, just call your own code. Say your own numbers. Who's the one who's going to get this done today? I am. Sammy. Where's Jesus at? Where's Buddha at? All of these are just the names of chords. You don't play that chord in that song. It's irrelevant here. The only one who's playing this song, who's living this life, who's responsible for this is me, and my name is Samantha. So who do I call? I call me. I call Samantha. Get into my own experience, meditate here in me. None of this is, if it's a reflection, that's fine. If I don't like what I'm seeing, what is it that exists in me that's brought this to me? What have I activated inside of me that's showing me my name everywhere? Promptings from, look, there's my sister's name. I better call my sister. And she'll be like, I was just thinking about you and I'm having a breakdown. I'm like, I know, the universe told me. And I got a message from the universe to think about you right now. But it was like the tables had turned and everything was coming up with my name on it. Marshall Amplifiers, that's my surname. And it just kept happening for a while. So I contacted Donovan, who does numerology charts and number readings and synchronicities and things like this. And I said to him, I want a numerology chart done. I want to know my life path. I want to, we did it when we were teenagers, but we didn't understand on the next level. Now I've just had my Saturn return and I'm ready to make this. Why? What is happening here? And what happened with that was he brought everything down to 9. Everything, added all the numbers up.
Completion.
And said, your number is, I'm an 11.
Okay. Like that?
However, I said to him, so how do I go from 9 to 11? I have to miss a step. Where's 10? And if I'm a 22, and I started going, but hang on a minute, if we're continually reducing everything by adding it up to a single number digit to try and get an overview of what we're energetically experiencing right now, and you're telling me 11 is important and 22 is important, but we're not doing 10? I want you here at 10 o'clock. Oh, that equals 1. 1's not going to do it. I'm an 11, so you give me 2? No. What if we paid our electricity bill with this theory? My electricity bill is $257. That equals what? I'll give you 9. No, you will pay the full amount. We want the full amount.
No, but it reduces 2. That's what I'm going to pay you.
Yeah, and so I know that when I ask a guitarist to play me a certain chord, I'm going to request a certain amount, certain numbers in the scale. And so if I want you to play A add 13, the numerologist will go, oh, that's a 4. Well, no, it isn't, actually. So there was no consistency in how things are being expressed. So if I'm speaking things into being, how can I be consistent? And I have to tell a musician in this language, I have to tell a mathematician in this language, I have to tell my children in that language. Let me make it really simple for you. And we're only going to deal with 1 to 9, and that's the cycle. So what about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and 12 o'clock? What about the semitones? What about the other note? What about the next octave? Or are we only going to play 8 notes and that's it? How can I give you the understanding that I have in music that one octave of 7 notes is not enough to play the majority of songs, especially not Beethoven, especially not classical music. We can play 3-chord country songs all day long with those 7 notes.
But not.
Samantha, we have guest in our chat room who wanted to know your thoughts on light language and throat singing.
Yes.
She
I'm
just
not
wants to know.
experienced. I'm not experienced with it myself personally, other than understanding we're already doing it. Everybody's already doing it, just in a certain part of the spectrum of music. Some people have a broader range. Some people have a greater understanding. Most of us are lucky to just experience and express a few notes on the musical spectrum most of our lives.
Yeah,
And it's a broader spectrum. They're activating those particles. They can read those particles. They can express those particles. Light language is the symbols, and our alphabet. They're the same symbols. So, and we have the alphabet A to Z, but that's only because that's the only ones we've discovered so far. If you go back to ancient language, we only had 5 or 6 letters. And each era has developed a broader alphabet because they've gone, we need different ways to express what we're experiencing, what we're seeing. And I've questioned with this as well. Like when you start going, okay, once we get to Z, what's the next step after that? Would it be AZ or like AA? AB, AC, AD, and if you overlap those two, you'll get a different symbol. So when I look at light language, I see that the way each individual line goes, like the line in the sand, when you sing that note, the sand particles will move in certain ways. Light language is like having 3 octaves playing all at once.
Wow.
And a lot of it is either from the deep end of the spectrum.
So I have a question. How about a lot of before we started forming words, it was like clicks, like the clicking, and throat singing and clicking and different, almost like how dolphins speak before we had like this language come about. It goes all the way back to that. So I find that really, really fascinating. How is this relevant back then when they were just doing telepathy and clicking? It's really interesting.
Go and stand out in nature.
Yeah.
The creaking of the trees, the landing of the stick, they're the primitive, the beginning to articulate, beginning to play the musical instrument. And if you think about it on a social concept, let's go to China, for example, because it's completely out of our spectrum right here. The reason their country looks the way it does, their architecture, their natural environment, is because of the spectrum, the chords that piece of land sings, that those trees sing, because they use certain tones in their voice. There's consistency. They're all singing in tune. They all speak in a certain way. Here in Australia, we've got a really broad spectrum of people, a really multicultural. We've also got such a continent that has barrier reefs, rainforests, and each one of those environments has a general sound of its own. And now that can be a chord, that can be a song, depending on how much interaction there is, how much movement there is. The ocean. So that's what created the spiral. Being that every note has a vibrational frequency, if we assign number 1 to 1, when I put all of this into an Excel document and asked it to create me a graph, the result was a spiral.
Yeah, Lori, bring up her slide, will you please? Her PowerPoint.
Now, there isn't just one spiral or 2 spirals. There are multiple spirals. There are spirals spiraling from every note creates its own spiral. Nothing goes in a straight line. And so the spirals overlap.
Keep going, Lori. There you go.
So one step at a time.
The Fibonacci sequence.
It could be the Fibonacci. It'll all depend on the angle of the spiral. there are multiple spirals, and different mathematicians will give them different names. And I've done some research into the maths of it and gone, you know what, there's not just one, there's 12. There's 12. Is it a really tight spiral, or is it a really big spiral? Well, that depends where in the spiral you're standing. If you're at the center, it's really tight. If you've got a broad spectrum concept and you've taken a few steps to the left, then you're now, I'm pointing at my screen like you can see me. Depending on where you're standing on the staircase of that spiral, how tight is the spiral, because it keeps spiraling out. And each note has its own spiral.
Are you kidding me? I am a fractal.
You are a fractal.
I'm addicted to fractals. There's a YouTube. There's a YouTube channel called Math Towns, and they send out they go deeper and deeper into the fractals, and it's just so fascinating. So we are fractals, aren't we?
We are fractals, yes.
What's interesting to me is that when you went to dump that spreadsheet out, that it tried to create a perfect circle for the spiral. It's like the computer language didn't understand.
No, computers are they only want to play 440 hertz. They don't want you to slide between notes. They want formatting. And I fought with the computer for months trying to make it do what I could see. And my brother's actually a computer technician and does some coding. And when I explained to him what I wanted it to do, he said to me, that's why computer programs cost thousands of dollars and take so long to make. And that's why your brain is actually cleverer than the computer, because I don't know how to make your computer do what you want it to do. This is the best you're going to get from simple software like Excel. Obviously, there's a lot of software we don't know about, isn't available to us because it would open up our understanding on a whole nother level. And they really don't want that, you know. They want to keep us in our pharmacies, in our quick fixes, in our 3-chord songs. So to just go back into the preliminary understanding of the vibrational frequencies of the alphabet and of the musical notes, that I was working with Donovan, and I said to him, well, what if we do a numerology name chart where S isn't 19, the 19th letter of the alphabet being S, 1 plus 9 equals 10 makes it a 1. 19 equals 19. Let's give it 19. Let's not reduce anything. Let's do it at its full expression. And going into the next octave, because A equals 1. We're putting A at the first step. So every time your numerologist will say to you, oh, you're a 1, you're back down here. Actually, I'm 135. I'm a cumulative total, not a reduction of the parts.
That makes a lot of sense right there.
Yeah.
I'm a cumulative total.
Yep. Okay.
And so when we add up our birthdays, when we add up the numerical value of our names, and are encouraged to continually reduce it into a 9, that spiral only goes so far, and then it comes back down to the center. And when you do that on the chart, there should be one picture that shows a fan inside the spiral. No, that one. That was my attempt to try and get it to show me the spiral in angles.
The only fan-like one is the one she just showed you previously.
Okay.
Those are the only ones I got in your email.
If I ask the vibrations to only do 1 to 9, 1 to 9, 1 to 9, we never get to 10, 11, 12 in the scale. And it draws out somewhat similar to the Nazi symbol and continually eats itself. It doesn't spiral out. It doesn't grow. It's got a short fuse. It goes boop, 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 boop. And so there's only 9
falls back in on itself
out of 12. Yes. Yeah. And doesn't have a long wavelength.
Well, that's the the spiral of creation that we talked about. The cries does the blue because it naturally goes in, out, pulls in and out.
Yeah.
That
Well, the
motion.
universe is doing that. We're coming
Yeah.
in and out of manifestation. But how far do you want to spiral before you come back in? This is it. Most of us don't stretch ourselves beyond basic living in society, and we give ourselves nicknames, and we're not understanding the value of our full expression. Let's make it simple for you. No, that's another 3-chord song. And that's okay. You know, lots of people are at that space and that's all they want. But some of us are wanting to know, how did Beethoven do that? What are those other notes? What is jazz about? How does this create that? If I move this out of the way, if I want to get my rubbish to the curb, I've got to first open the fridge, find the old food and put it in the bin, and then take the bin to the street. If I just take the wheelie bin to the street, it's not going to get the rubbish out of my house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And so this is kind of like, okay, you want to learn to play music. Do you want to just take what's already in the bin out, or do you want to understand what happens when why can some people cry? Why do I make people cry when I play music? Why can I make mum happy all of a sudden? How is it one song, one set of notes? These are the keys. We play in keys. And in the C major scale, in the key of C, we don't play those sharp notes and the black notes on the piano. In E flat, Celine Dion will sing in E flat and A flat. And if you're a piano player, that can be really tricky to play because you're playing 90% of the black notes, and it's not where you're comfortable at as a moderate musician, unless you're quite well trained, or to even read that sheet music. And we've only been given a really simple way of looking.
I was going to say, I've been judged. I was just going to say, I've been judged for pushing. I'm raised my hand. I'm an envelope pusher of things. I've been that way since I was very little. My mom, she called me her envelope pusher by the time I was like 13. I'm always trying to like stretch out into really uncomfortable places that are somewhat difficult and challenging and shocking. And I think that's just part of my frequency, or whatever you want to call it, vibration. I raise my hand. I stretch beyond the normal all the time.
Yeah, that's what's required. That's what we're here for.
Out of the box thinking. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
All of the
I'm
box
the same
thinking.
way. Yes.
It's everything. There's no exceptions.
Completely out.
And so what I discovered was, when I assigned the alphabet to the piano, I could now play my name, Samantha. And when I did that, I felt different. I'd already had the BioWell experience and understood that I needed to hear certain notes more than others, like the squealing in the ear, that you hear that high-pitched sound. What is that? Where does that come from?
What is that?
It's higher than my piano. I can't access that note on any mainstream instrument that I have.
I actually tried to match those tones I could hear in my.
We do, yes.
So I would try to see if I could, and then I would figure out what the hertz is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so, and where is it coming from?
Right.
Who's ringing that tuning fork?
Yeah, where's that coming from?
Interesting.
Which planet suddenly just had a collision? Because you don't get the tuning fork to ring unless you bang it.
Yeah, right.
There's got to be friction.
Something has to set it off,
There's got to be vibration.
And I'm receiving that vibration.
So you're in tune to it. Your tuning fork in there, and you've got all of these notes in your body.
Right. Okay.
Yep. Every single one and on every octave. It just,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's wild.
Mind blowing.
Oh, this is
Julianne.
The mystery just gets deeper. Thanks, Samantha.
Julianne has a question.
Go ahead, Julie.
Yeah, Jules.
Well, not this morning, but the morning before, I got the word, because you said you get the sparkly things. I get words and pictures of things because I write
Yes.
poetry, which still is music. But I got reverberation. That
Yes.
was the word. And as I got the word, the whole body vibrated inside of me.
Yes.
And reverberation is echo, which is sound.
Yes.
Because it's hitting things. So that
Yes.
was, because that's what I do is work with words, that's what was given to me in my vision 2 days ago. So obviously there was a reverberation, an echo, a sound going off out there.
Yeah. Well, everything out there is the
Is in
same as
here.
what's in here.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know that. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that. It's all inside of us, and that's where we've
Mhm.
been for the last year, everybody.
And if we
Yeah.
if we go back to the visual of the sand on the plate where the music note is being, and you change that note from bo, the sand will change into a different geometric pattern. Bo, the sand will change into another different pattern. Somatics. That's called somatics. Cymatics for people who want to Google that, or if someone wants to write it in there. There's so many great experiments, and they're now doing it with water particles and light, like tubs of water, and they're putting the music through the water, and the way it ripples, the ripples on the ocean, the ripples on the river, the ripples in your glass when you tap your glass. This is what happens. Even though I have this feeling, people that have the tapping therapy, you can tap in,
Right.
tap in too.
We do that a lot.
Your own
Mhm.
physical
We do that. We do
experience.
that.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
Tap
yeah,
in,
and you
branch out.
yeah, and so
Yeah,
you know,
we tap. Yep.
I had a discussion with my fruit bowl. It doesn't like sitting next to the rubbish bin. It's got its own little stool and it sits there, and I've got but the fruit was going off quicker than normal.
Yeah,
And I asked
I
the
wanted to
fruit
ask you a
bowl,
question,
why?
Samantha.
That's
I wanted to
fascinating.
ask you a question, Samantha, because I've been doing some experiments in my garden, okay? I have 2 pepper plants that I've set aside on their own. They're still with the other plants. They're not in complete isolation, but I don't talk to them and I don't sing to them.
Oh,
The others I treat differently. The others are now 2 feet tall. The 2 that I haven't sung to are 2 inches tall.
yeah.
They're from the same family of plant seedlings. They were in the same. You having to leave, Brenda?
No, she's agreeing.
Agreeing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She
And
probably
the other
does the
thing I
same
did,
thing.
the other thing that I did is I took another experiment. Is I took granules of quartz. I grounded up quartz because quartz, you can do things with tonation with quartz. And I get energy readings from these stones. I can put my hand on a chunk of quartz and I can communicate. Don't ask me how. I don't know how. I just do. I
You're in tune
communicate
with it.
that. I'm in tune with
That's
it.
all.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
yes.
so I'll take my hand and I'll put it over a plant and I'll redirect that energy from the quartz to the plant and I'll surround the plants with the quartz. When they were seedlings, that's how I got them to grow so quickly, was the combination of singing and the quartz. The ones that were in isolation that weren't getting the quartz or the singing were stunted in their growth. They did eventually grow a little bit more, so I put them down into the greenhouse with the other plants, but I put granules of granite in several of them. And they're just, growing like crazy. But the ones that don't have the granite are not growing as quickly. They're growing, but not as quickly. So I've started singing to the 2 little ones that were. I felt sorry for them, so I started singing to them, and now they're doing. They're like they gained another 3 or 4 inches, but I just felt so bad for them. I felt like I'm
It's the
mistreating
same
them,
with
but I wanted
people.
to see if it would work.
It's the same with
It
people.
is. Yeah. I was just going to say the same thing. If you talk in a certain manner, in a certain tone of voice to your child, bad, that's what the sand particles are going to do. Love, 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 love. I did this experiment with my sister, and it was in the middle of winter. We live here in Queensland, so it's pretty mild winter in North Queensland. But it's still cold compared to the beautiful tropical summers that we have. And we're sitting out the front. She goes, I'm cold, I'm cold, I'm cold. I'm like, you're speaking it into being. You're convincing yourself that you can't be any other way. Yes, it's cold, but you're 36 degrees on the inside. You're not cold. You're 36 degrees on the inside. And that's really warm. And your heart is beating and you're really energized. So say this, warm and energized, warm and energized, warm and energized. And do these ones. And within 5 minutes, she was warm and energized and was not complaining about the cold anymore. And it's a vibrational principle. It's a consciousness speaking it into being. It's this is what I'm experiencing. This is going to be a bad day. You've probably got no choice now. You'll experience. It's not a bad thing. It's just a certain vibrational frequency of. It would be a blessing for somebody else. My bad day is a blessing for other people.
Yeah.
But to me, this is not the ideal outcome because I'm going for a specific note. Right. I'm looking for someone who can play violin with me, who knows that I can deliberately play all the wrong notes. If I'm looking for a piano player, they're going to be in tune because the piano only has fixed frequencies. A violin is a chromatic instrument. And so when we think about the concept of creating, how do we manifest at the lives we live, the bodies we exist in, our health, our well-being, our illness, our houses, our cars? It's the symbols, it's the light language. Our alphabet is just a really simple version of the vibrating particles joining together or exploding apart. From what angle? Is it a 6 or is it a 9? It's both. It's perspective. It's with the concept of stay in the light, stay in love, and stay in light. What happens when the sun goes down? You're in the dark. We've got to have the nighttime before a daytime.
Question.
If you're not cycling through a day of darkness hours and lightness hours, then the love and light society crashes harder than anyone because they're avoiding the dark. We don't want to go to the dark. You're going to have to rest at some point. And the universe is going to shut you down and say, sleep now.
There you go. Listen,
Samantha, you just got like 20 cool points with me, boy. Woo! Love it.
Did you create this chart, Samantha?
Yes.
Can you bring that up, Lori? It's the last slide in her PowerPoint. And I'm fascinated with this chart that you created because you have mapped out in color these keys or notes to different attributes like inner standing, earth, crown, violet, 216 hertz.
All right. So
you actually mapped all this. Is this how you're affected by the sound?
Yes. This is how I understand it. Yes. So this is one octave, one chromatic scale, starting at A because everyone wants to. We tune based on the A tuning being 440 or 432. The majority of people who are becoming aware of this know of it because of the 432 hertz tuning or the 440 tuning. So I've got, if we were to go through the spectrum, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, along the bottom, they're the piano notes.
Yep.
The white keys and the black keys. We also know A sharp as B flat, C sharp as D flat, D sharp as E flat. All right. If we assign, and this is on a sliding scale. I don't claim this to be the be-all to end-all. This is just, let's put the letter A with the music note A with the number 1. Let's just start it. The first point we all understand is the first point of the alphabet, A and 1. And when we look at a lot of the chakra charts, we understand the root chakra is red, the sacral, the solar plexus is yellow, the heart is green, the throat is blue, the eye is blue, question mark. I am yet to understand exactly myself. Because on the inside as well, we see the negative image. This is the positive and negative thing and why they're both essential. When you take a picture on the old films, the negative, everything's in reverse color. And that's what our eyes are doing. It's flipping it upside down and turning it inside out. And when we see red, we're actually seeing the absence of green. Is that right? When we see green, we're seeing the absence of red. We're only seeing the absence of, not
right in color spectrum. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So music is the same.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one pattern. So I wanted to, with this chart, and I've done this from 22 hertz right through to the 3000 hertz, because it's they're octaves, that it's the same. You just double the number. If we double 216 hertz, we get 432. So this is
okay.
I've created these to, and you could run them all the way along your piano. This is just a really simple version of it that sits on my piano. This has got 2 octaves here. This has got the full alphabet, so it's just 2 octaves and a couple more. So I had to guess, experiment, wonder if the root chakra represents red, the yellow chakra represents your solar plexus. What are the physical expressions of it? From our heart, that's an easy one. It's loving. The heart in our minds, if nothing else, because your entire system is loving, but your throat is used for your expression. Okay, that's your speech. Your eye is used for seeing. Your ear is used for hearing. The crown chakra, well, there's a bird on me. That's the ground, the earth. The crust of the earth is the crown of our Earth's body. Is the skull, is the outer shell.
Okay.
Wow. So you, I'm getting it now.
It's the same pattern.
Uh-huh.
And it just
Same
it,
pattern.
it's
Yeah,
just
it's the micro
This
and the
fits
macro.
in with what Jules has been teaching us.
yeah. So there's still things missing from this chart, because I didn't want to lock it in based on my understanding and experience, because I only know the Sami version. I only know the Samantha experience of it. I can meet other people and hear their expression and see how they represent, what color are they presenting to the world, what song are they presenting. Do they sing country and western, or Killing in the Name of, or Carmen? Da, 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 da. The way you use your voice, the way you dress yourself, the way you move through tells me which ones of these chakras are actually really active.
By the way in which you're
expressing, presenting yourself and expressing yourself. So the animal kingdom, for example, certain animals in certain colors making certain noises, they don't have a full rainbow spectrum active.
Right.
And people, musicians and artists in particular, people who work with the color, people who work with sound, people who know there's more than red, yellow, and blue, that they can make not just 7 colors in a rainbow, they can make millions of colors.
Yeah.
But
hang on just a second. Welcome, Rocky Stucci. Glad to see you. It's been a while, brother. Glad to have you here. Hi, Audrey. And so many of you that have come in during this presentation. Thank you for coming tonight and spending time with us and meeting Samantha. This has been fascinating. Go ahead, Samantha. I just wanted to say hi to folks. So many have come in.
Me too.
It's been so fascinating.
When I printed the spiral with the colors associated, when I expanded from the simple piano chart to get it back into the spiral, and it really should come right down into the center and slowly spiral out. And I showed this to my nana, who is an artist, and she said, that looks like the Reiki symbol. The way that the colors,
it does. It does.
And the way that X, Y, and Z are in the 3rd octave and explode out of the top. So every one of these portions is assigned a number and a letter, and this image, this fractal, is abracadabra. Now, how interesting is it that when I go A, B, R, A, C, A, D, A. When I connect the dots between the music notes, this is a chord. This is a visual chord of, I could play it here too. Kind of thing. These are the notes that the letters, as I was saying about the numerology before, the letter S has a note. It has a vibrational energy of 19. It's the 19th letter of our alphabet. If we're going to map that on the scale of things, it's the 19th tone in our understanding of the scale. There aren't just 7 notes in a scale. There are unlimited. And there are notes in between the acceptable notes, because you can't, when we do the somatics, even if we play the perfect pitches through that speaker, the sand particles will jump into the next geometric pattern. It's far more gentle to slide them slowly than it is to shock them with a new note. They'll jump. And we physically as humans do the same thing. When you hear a certain song on the radio, when you hear a siren, your ears prick up. You're suddenly activated. It's the most powerful sound that we have on our planet, and we should all be listening to sirens and practicing singing sirens every day on a regular basis. In order to vibrate your own self fully from the lowest point you can tone, that's a far more effective way of switching on.
You just sounded like a theremin.
Yeah.
You know, my dog goes crazy when the fire engine goes by and he starts howling, and I noticed his pitch is the same pitch as the siren. So that makes sense to me. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
The creepiest siren for me are the tornado sirens I grew up listening to, because I grew up in Kansas. And the tornado sirens would come on, and I would just be like spooked out. Like,
we have cyclones.
Yeah.
You don't even get the come down in between the rise. It's just up, 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 up. Everybody up and out, up and out, up and out, up and out. And you know, the end siren for the football game. We just want you all to stop. It's like a big truck horn.
Yeah.
The concept of all of the sounds around us, it's programming. It's the vibrational frequency of existence. When you hear pretty birds, you go, oh, look, the pretty birds. When you hear a dog barking,
when I want my cat or my dog to get away.
Yeah, that's
right. When I want my cat or my dog to get away from me, I just go, beep, and they just run like hell. I know that's mean. No. I wanted to ask you. I just wanted to ask you though. So many of us are not musicians. Okay. But naturally, I just told you how when I meditate, or if I want to make the sound when I'm meditating, or if I'm doing remote healing with someone. I talked about this last week. When I do remote healing with someone, they have a frequency that I know.
Yes.
Don't ask me how I know. I just know that Crystal's frequency is different than Lori's, and it's different than Jules', it's different than Brenda. When I want to send them healing, if they've asked for help, but I never do it unless somebody asks. If they ask for help and I send them healing, I will tune into their frequency, and I have a vocal that goes with it. Again, don't ask me how I know, but the vocal is very different. I call it my heart song. I call it a heart song. Yep. And so I have a heart song for Michelle. I have a heart song for Lori. They're different. They sound different. And they use different notes, I guess.
Yes.
But I'm not a musician, so I couldn't tell you if it's an A or an F or a G. Because even when I learned how to play the guitar, I learned by ear, not by how to read music.
We play by ear.
So now, when we're creating something, do you think that at one point, seriously now, at one point, deep, deep, deep in human history, we had the ability, apparently, to create
Yes.
all that is around us through sound.
Yes.
So we should be able to regenerate or heal an organ in our body.
Yes. Simply by choice, by tuning into it.
Yes.
So we don't need
And
these
playing the note
machines
that is
these
perfectly
therapists are
tuned.
using.
That, you know, and what it's sort of like is no one in the orchestra's tuned their instruments and they're all just playing their own song and it sounds like a mess. We've just got to retune. If everyone decides to tune back into nature, we will naturally play the sounds through our voices that will heal us, that will create the perfect form.
But have you heard,
it's that we've manifested something less than perfectly in tune with the natural flows and cycles of things. And as a professional, evolving, we've got to go through the illness. We've got to have the pandemics. We've got to have a fear of flight mode in order to learn how to jump higher and faster than the wolf or the lion.
Yep.
Wow.
As a professional singer,
are essential to our evolving.
She has a lag. Sammy, as a professional singer and musician and songwriter, when you, I'm sure you've heard of this phenomenon when you get a group of people together, like in a cave or a residence chamber, maybe in the pyramid, I don't know, a music room at school, the lunch hall, whatever.
Yep.
And they start humming and everybody's doing their own. And we say, everybody do your own thing. Within a matter of 60 seconds or less, they all get in tune with each other. And they all start. They would
have to dissipate. They couldn't stay in the same space unless they were. Or there would be conflict.
Yeah, it's like they can only go so long with their own tones.
Yeah.
Before they end up. Go ahead.
What you were saying before about, okay, I want to send energy to Crystal. I want to send her a telepathy. I want to send her a mental note. I want to remember to call her later, and then she suddenly calls you. When you're going to call her, there's a set of numbers you've got to put in order. You can't just go any random. You can't put those numbers in random order and expect to get her telephone.
Right. Right.
So every one of us, and our names represent our phone number. Our fractal's phone number is our name. You call a dog a dog.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's not a cat. I mean, you can call it cat all you want. It'll think it's a cat, and it will probably begin to express itself in that way. But you don't call daytime night. You don't call nighttime day. You don't use random numbers if you want to call your friend. You use the numbers of your friend's telephone. When I play music, you've got to play the chords that make that song, or else you're playing a different song. Like, everyone knows who I'm calling up right now.
Yeah, right.
And if I
go,
are you gonna?
Makes sense. Yeah.
Everything creates. Everything is bouncing off each other too. Like, we are always emitting energy, vibrations, everything you think. You don't even have to say it out loud. The tone of your voice exists in your head before it comes out of your mouth.
It's true. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
And every response is chosen or
See,
is
for me, that says it exists in a feeling.
Or the feeling.
For me, it's like when I'm thinking about that inside of my dialogue, it's a feeling. It's that feeling and frequency go together.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
How does it feel?
Well,
Samantha.
It's got a certain buzz to it.
Yeah, how does it feel? How does that make you feel? You're like,
Go ahead, Jules.
Julie.
When you said the abracadabra, now
Yes.
you know what that means, don't you? What
Yes.
it is.
To speak it into being.
I create as I speak.
Yeah, I create as I speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what was interesting to me about the abracadabra is the way that the letters are aligned on that spiral makes it look like a magic wand. The fractal is a magic wand.
Yeah.
It's pinpointing
It's
a
an
single
extension.
note.
Yeah, and
When
it's
I
an
write my
extension
name on
of
here,
you.
yes. Yeah, I want that. make that happen. That, that, this, here, there, wherever. When I write my name and on here and go from S to A to M to A to N to A to T, H and A, it creates a butterfly.
Yeah.
When I do the same thing for spiral, the word spiral, it creates a 5-pointed star.
Huh.
I've got hundreds
That's
of these that I've done. I can forward pictures of. I've got a little video here, but we're not going to have time to even look at that today. It may have been on my own YouTube channel.
Yes, you had a video where you.
Where I've because I've been very hesitant, cautious, careful to be very vocal or expressive about a lot of this stuff. One, because I've been coming to terms with it my own self, that you've only given me half the information, the entirety of my life, and now I know. And you've totally lost your shit now, Sammy. You've totally blown your mind. Don't even talk to us. Just give us the bottom line. Just give us a 3-chord country song. Just give us. Okay, that's all I want to be served. I've had to wait to find some really significant people who wanted to even hear this, who have had these concepts coming through since they were children and have had them beaten out of them, because most of us have had it beaten out of us. You can't look out the window and go, I can see the sparkling ones. They're going to take you away. I can see black things coming out of the side of your head. You can't say that to people.
No.
You can.
You're like, I need some really dark sunglasses.
Excuse me, but your brain is oozing.
Yeah.
And, if you go to the theatre, it's obvious. Everyone's dressed up in their costumes and it's all in tune and it's all perfect. And Les Miserables makes sense. Some people are just doing that in reality, in their physical walking life. And there's nothing wrong with that. That was a blockbuster. Lots of effort went into that. And thus, the same. We're putting a lot of effort into whatever it is we're manifesting. Most of us just aren't willing to admit it. Shit, I made that mistake just by thinking that mistake was going to happen. I allowed for it. I asked for it. And so it got delivered to me. I did that my own self. I'm responsible for my own shit. Because if I put it in, it's going to be digested and then I need to go to the bathroom. That's a fact. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it. This is a good thing. You need to get it out and move on and get ready for the next meal. Remember to wash your hands.
I love us Aussies.
Yeah,
even
we do too.
Has a
Aussies are number one. I'm telling you guys.
You guys are
No
nuts.
restraint.
No, because we come straight from the mental austral land. I
know.
I'm on a brain.
Yeah, there you go.
Watch me go.
That's what you all have in common. You have that, like,
Yeah.
Well, the poem that I was
great.
going to read was exactly a lead into when she said about Les Mis, about being on stage. So it's actually what I'm going to recite.
Good.
If you want that now?
Please,
or later?
yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes, it's 10:33, so I think it'd be a perfect time for it.
Yeah,
Yes.
go for it.
Go for it.
Right. This is.
Where you hold it
this
up, Lori?
is a play. Oh, my book.
Oh, the book. Yes. Right here.
Righto. This is a play by Julianne. Think of a stage production. Now, what can you see? The actors are on stage, and of course, including me, there's a stage backdrop audience as well. The director's prop, and everything's going swell. Show is up running 7 nights a week. Not going too bad, but there's a weak leak. I see it this way. The director sees it that. I get up and say my lines and I change tack. Now, I do this a few times, getting rave reviews. The show is in the headlines and even in the news. The simple thing was change, and that is it. The show was pulled up out of its shit. A few things done different, that's all it took. The production is a play. Just take a look. See what resembles in your life. The things you change will give you light, relief.
Awesome, Jules. That's awesome.
awesome.
Oh, I love the
I
relief.
love your book, Jules. I love your
I
book.
love that.
This is not the front see over.
It's
This is
awesome.
not the front see over. This is the cover.
Our language is exactly that. You know,
Brilliant.
I understand that the words that we use, particularly in English, the words that we use are
Spells.
groupings of other words.
Yes.
So if you break the words down, what I'm actually saying is three little words and not one big word. But it's like saying flour, sugar, eggs. You know I'm going to make pancakes. If I say lamb chops,
Man,
mashed
I
potatoes, you
And
know I'm
mint.
cooking dinner. Yeah.
Man,
So
I
one
feast.
word is lots of little words. They're the little ingredients that make up a bigger bowl of response.
Manipulation. Man, I pull at ions.
That's
Man, I work with
yeah.
the ions.
Yes.
No,
Initial
Samantha.
We're all
thought,
manipulators.
all, so you are C. That's right.
Samantha, you have a.
Icing on the cake.
It's true.
Yeah, I sing on the cake.
Icing
I
on the
wrote a
cake.
poem about
I love that.
I sing on the cake. I wrote a poem. I sing on
I
the
love
cake.
that.
Earth is the
Yes,
cake.
good.
All the world's a cake. At this stage, we're dealing with Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's true.
Yeah.
At this stage in my
Very
development, my baby's only just learning to walk. You know, at this stage of your development, you're learning to read and write. At this stage of your development, at this stage, we're standing on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is singing its own note, and we are working out what we want to be in tune with, what's in tune to us, what resonates for us. And depending on what names we've been given or we've claimed to have, because some of us are named and some of us choose our own names later, some of us get nicknames, some of us become the name of our work or the name of our car. Well, these things are just resemblances of our own contents. And
They're just the
how are we
ingredients.
content? How content are we?
That's
Or
why
not.
I changed mine to use my name Margaret, because I never had Margaret. And I just, about a month ago, I was given, use your middle name. I got a message,
Same.
use your middle name.
Same.
Yeah.
If I want to call my full expression into being, my name is now Samantha Allison Marshall. Well, it always was. But what happens is when I go and do a performance, when I'm on stage, my stage name is Sami, S-A-M-I. Because Sami,
Mm-hmm.
Sami's a very
Sam-I-am.
powerful word. Sami's a very Sam-I-am.
Yes.
Sam-I-am.
Sammy loves to play.
Sam.
When I'm at work as a music teacher, they call me Miss Samantha because when I answer the phone for business, greetings, this is Samantha. Samantha does the business. Samantha gets it done down to business. The people who know me best call me Sam. People who have seen me do performances call me Sammy. The people I work with call me Samantha. 3 different characters.
Yeah.
All in one body.
Right.
But depending on how I feel, is it Samantha talking or is it Sam or is it Sammy? And you'll get a different. Sammy does things Samantha never would.
So does Terry. Terry
So
does
you can just blame it on Sammy
that.
or Samantha or. Oh, that wasn't me. That was Sammy.
That's
It's only a
right.
hand.
That's my other
That wasn't me.
consciousness. That's my other that's our multi-dimensional selves.
Yeah.
And you know,
That's
and we
right.
have surnames. And why is it when a woman gets married, all of a sudden her character changes, her role changes,
Yes.
her attitude changes? She's just put on a different label, a
Name.
different uniform, a different name. She's now speaking into being. She is now Sammy Old Mate. You know, not
Yeah.
Sammy
Hey,
Marshall.
Sammy, you know what my last name is? It's Payne. P-A-Y-N-E. It means face. You know, window pane, but it's P-A-Y-N-E.
Yeah.
So I went from a Soames to a Payne. And I know
Yeah,
I changed.
We're not throwing rocks at anybody now, are we?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
No, she's such a
funny.
pain. Such a pain.
Yeah.
No,
And
whatever
Rocky
you say,
Stucci, we call him
whatever
the
you say
face.
to me,
Pain.
I reflect
The face,
like
the
that
pain.
at you,
Creation
remember?
is painful and it's noisy.
Yep.
Seed
Yeah, it is.
painting hurts the husk. Pain is the same as not. It's not a bad thing.
Jojo.
Yeah.
And if you
Jojo.
ask me, what does creation sound like? The best way I can explain it to you is drop a piano down a mine shaft.
Oh no.
Oh,
That's what the universe sounds like. Every single
Oh.
note being hit
That's
all
pretty
at once
loud.
across
pretty
multiple
loud.
octaves. It doesn't
Yeah.
we're very blessed to have a filter and be able to tune in to just one or two notes or just half a dozen notes.
We are. Yes.
When my mind started expanding to the fact that there was a whole spectrum and we were only being shown half the spectrum, and that spectrum didn't end at one layer of the spectrum, the spectrum went from the micro to the maxo in every octave and kept going. This is the potential.
Hope not.
I started having a meltdown because I was getting when I tuned into everything all at once. I don't recommend this at home.
Yeah, I bet.
But for
Brain
No,
overload.
You don't want to do
what
that.
did I miss? Rocky says he's still stuck at sugar and pancakes. Did I miss
Yes.
something?
the ingredients that he's mixing up in his bowl.
Mhm.
Oh, because he says I'm still stuck at
The
sugar and
ingredients.
pancakes.
I know what he's
Yeah.
having for breakfast.
No stuck. No stuck.
All right.
Right? Goodness gracious.
Well, I'd like to go on
Well,
forever,
I
but
remember
it's
for
already
me, the sound of
10:41.
creation was sailing across the sun.
Yeah, I'd like
this
to
is
go
getting
on
pretty
forever,
late,
you guys, but we gotta
wrap it up.
10:41.
We go all night.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, we
This
could
has
go all
just
night
been
with this.
awesome.
Our entire
I love
life
to
is
hang
built
out with
around it.
Samantha.
It's unusual that our hostess and our guest at the same time have a lag. It's been real challenging with you two tonight. Crystal's over here, Samantha's over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. The internet's
No,
been real bad. Yeah,
That's
it's
all right.
been
Yeah,
bad. My internet connection
Everywhere.
bad. Ugh.
Yeah. Lori's whole neighborhood was without power yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
crazy.
lost it for about an
Crazy.
hour and a half. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, Samantha, it's been a treasure having
Yeah,
you
it's weird.
with us.
It's weird.
And
Thank you.
we are,
It has.
as you know, a broad community. We have many other, like Rocky Stucci, he's in here. He's a show host.
Mm-hmm.
There's a number of people here that have their own channels.
Trina.
And Trina, and Trina's loving this show. And I had to
I'm
listen
sure
to it while
she
she
is.
was driving. She's usually on here with us,
I know.
but she
I
was
was looking
late
forward
getting home.
to.
Aw.
Well, there'll be a
Yeah.
time that we can
Yes.
bring you and Trina,
Yeah.
bring you back on for round two.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
feel free to
That would be
message me
great.
with your specific questions
Yes.
and
Wonderful.
Yeah,
help
'cause
me
we had a
to
chance
put it all together.
Yeah, we'll have a chance to think about this and then come back around and go, hey, there's a few
Yeah.
things we still want to discuss with Samantha. And
Mhm.
Absolutely.
have you back
Absolutely.
on another night. Absolutely. Definitely.
That would be
Be able to
fantastic.
hone in on specifics because it's broad spectrum.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
not
Exactly.
there's every note, there's
It
every
really is.
color, there's
Yep.
and then there's the potential for all of the chords from that. How are you going to paint the
Yeah.
picture when you've got every color available to you?
Yeah.
What picture
Yeah.
do you want to paint and how
Yeah.
are you going to paint it?
Exactly.
What song, when you've got every single musical note, what
Sure.
song are you going to play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, listen, you're copied on the email
Yeah.
with every member of the panel, including Trina. So they all have your email from the email that I sent out. You can see
Yes.
Samantha's address.
Yeah.
Plus, we've put your links in the YouTube channel
Mhm.
Okay.
description
In the
page.
description.
So, somebody, one of your friends, Brian, was just saying, hook up with Jules, get Jules's poetry and your music together. That would be awesome. And
Ooh. Ooh.
that would be
I
awesome.
was gonna sing.
You've got
I
to
was
do
gonna
that.
sing the
You've
first
got to do
verse,
that.
But I thought it didn't happen that way.
Well, yeah, you're both.
I'm going.
I don't know how close you are in
Contrary.
proximity, but
These
you all had to hook
are
up on
musical.
email and, get to know each other.
So where are
All right,
you,
well, thank you.
Samantha?
Queensland, North Queensland in Australia.
Oh yeah, North.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in Gympie.
Ah, I'm north of Mackay.
Okay, right.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty close.
Yeah, we have
See,
We have
only
a
a
number
few
of
hours
people,
down the
yeah.
road.
Yeah, it's still,
Yep.
yeah,
Well,
it's
we're in the
still
same state, so they can't. We're in the same state.
That's
We're in the
great.
same
That's
state.
We're the
Yeah.
We're in the same state.
What a
right?
wonderful
That's
group
great.
of people. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, this was so
Thank you,
fun.
Sammy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really
And
Thank you,
announcement wise,
Samantha. Thank you, Sammy.
it's kind of late
All
for
right, you guys.
announcements, but we do have, the card decks. So make sure you get your card. Al's got them. He's putting them together and sending them out. So make sure you get your orders in if you haven't ordered them yet, please, so that he can get them out to
And
everybody.
his link is in the description for you folks as well. So if you're interested in that deck,
Right.
just go to
And
the
we have-
link.
Right. And Milky Way's on tomorrow night, I'm sure, as usual. I just don't know what his topic is, and don't know if Trina's going to be with him or not. So,
Yep.
But we'll see you on next Wednesday,
Okay.
here at
Awesome.
Andromeda. Okay.
All right, you guys.
Thank you all very much. You have a great weekend.
Love you guys.
And love you all very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks again, Samantha. Bye-bye, everybody.